Hi folks, Peter here, the Expat Kiwi. Today I'm talking about safety, and when I'm talking about safety, I'm basically talking about protecting your valuables. So on that side of things, right into it. First and foremost, bum bag. Useful item, used to be in fashion 30 odd years ago when I first started travelling. Apparently it's now back in fashion. I don't really care. I've used one while I've been travelling for many years. It's practical. It's useful. I use it. It's kind of nice, it's back in fashion. I don't carry a lot in this. Yes, I will have my phone in here when I'm on the move. I will have a little bit of cash and maybe a few other little odd items, maybe a few snacks or something. First and foremost will be my little change purse, and this is literally just the shrapnel from wherever I'm at the time. Here in Europe it's pretty much always euro, with the exception of places like Norway, for example. On that side of things, I also carry a debit card, because in Norway they don't use cash. Everything's debit card, guys. Kind of good, actually. I don't carry a lot. On that side of things, there might be one or two small notes in there as well. So if I just want to go and get myself a drink, a coffee, something along those lines, I can quickly pull that out, deal with it, shrapnel goes back in, job done. Yes, like most of these, it has a zip pouch on the back. In that I will have whatever else I think I'm going to need for the day. So every day I'm sort of think about what my likely requirements are. On Camino, you're probably looking 30 to 40 euros a day, nothing more. I make sure that I've got sufficient cash in there, and that's pretty much all I'm carrying on there. My phone does also have my debit card and my ID, driver's license, that sort of type of thing in there. So I've got that sort of side of things covered as well, but that is the maximum I'm carrying in terms of valuables. So that's number one for my cash. Number two, a proper money belt. And by proper, I'm talking about something that goes in underneath your clothes that you will never take things out of in public. That's the most important point I can make. I have known of people being robbed purely and simply because in public they reached in under their shirt and took large currency out, or they showed that they had a large amount of currency on them, and later on that day, sure enough, they were mugged. Somebody had obviously seen it and followed them, and boom, that's all it takes. This is about keeping most of your cash and perhaps your credit card safe. If you find that you're caught short for whatever reason, your other card doesn't work, it's an unexpectedly large purchase, don't go into this in public, as I've said. Find yourself a little corner somewhere. You can duck in behind a set of shelves if you're in a shop. You can go to the bathroom, go into a cafe, whatever it takes, okay? Form a huddle with your friends and go into it from there. People can't really see that. They'll just think you're borrowing money from your friends. But basically keep it private, keep it under your clothes, preferably actually in under your waistband, so skirt, pants, whatever, and that's where the bulk of your cash and, as I say, in my case, my credit card goes. That's number two. I also am a great fan of, I'm a great fan of spreading risk, purely and simply. If you want, you can also look for clothing that has a little hidden pocket zipped into it. There are scarves out there, hats, skirts that actually have little pockets, hidden inside pockets sewn into them, things along these lines. I made this 35 years ago. I have used it anytime I've been going somewhere that is considered to be a little bit dodgy ever since. No, I'm not taking it to Spain. If I was going to be in major crowds or sort of something along those lines on a continuous basis, I might consider it, but day to day, certainly on Camino, not necessary. This is keeping a little bit of hidden cash. It used to be 50 bucks, so 50 American dollars, acceptable pretty much everywhere. Nowadays it'd be over here about euro, and I would probably keep 100. It's just that little bit of something that's going to get you to the next big town and help you to make a phone call, maybe get you a place for the night. 100's not going to go very far, but in Spain I can find a cheap hotel for 30, 40 euros. So yeah, it'll help. And perhaps a backup card. A friend of mine got robbed in Morocco 30 odd years ago. This is when I made this. He gave me the idea because he had one of these in his sewn onto his pants, or pinned into his pants, safety pin basically. He actually also had a spare copy of his passport tucked into it. But he was mugged, stripped of pretty much everything. And they took bum bag, money belt, backpack, the lot. But he had this. It got him back into the nearest big city, I can't remember where he was, and got him to safety basically. And because he had the copy of his passport, he was then able to quickly get an emergency copy and get the hell out of there. Nowadays, with having email, etc., it's much, much easier to prove your identification and to seek help from friends and family, etc. So probably that spare copy of the passport's not necessary. But do make sure that you actually have a copy on your phone, in your photos, and maybe with a friend. So if necessary, they can send that through to wherever you may be. Next on the list would be keeping your passport and credit cards safe from RFID theft. RFID is radio frequency identification. It is commonly used nowadays in debit cards, credit cards, and passports. Passports, because we're all heading off overseas, logically, it's a really good idea to pick up one of these. It's an RFID protected passport wallet. This particular one is cheap and cheerful. It was about 20 euros on, I think, Amazon. I would put the link, but there's no point because I'm in Germany and you guys are all over the world. So that sort of side of things, it holds my passport. It's got space for cards. There's actually 4 slots in here as well, so I can carry a whole bunch of cards, driver's license, etc. It is RFID protected. It only works when your stuff is in it, logically. So don't go taking your passport out and waving it around or just holding it in your hand while you're waiting to go through the airport check-in security, etc. People carrying RFID readers use those cues to actually scam you, or not to scam you, but to actually get your information. Keep it in that until you're at the counter. Keep the wallet in your hand, don't hold the queue up. Pull your passport out, hand it to the security officer, take it back, put it back away again. As I said, it also has slots in here for your cards, so useful place to keep. Hopefully you've got at least one credit card, perhaps even a second if you've got a spare, but keep them in there. My phone actually, the phone case is actually also RFID protected. I carry my driver's license, a debit card, etc. with my phone. That would generally be in the bum bag that I showed you before. But because some things are not RFID protected, for example the waist belt that I showed you, this is my card for my waist belt, and it's in a little RFID protected envelope. Now these are little plastic envelopes, they're cheap as anything. Some banks actually give them to you, or their branded equivalent thereof. In my case, I bought these again on the internet. Just look them up, RFID sleeve. You can even actually get them for your passport. So they come in varying sizes, but you can get a passport one if you prefer to keep your nice leather passport device, a passport holder, or just pop it into a purse, whatever it is that you prefer to carry. So just pick yourself up one of those. They're cheap, okay? I think you get a set of 4 of the credit card ones for about €5, and I don't know the larger one, I didn't look at that. Next up, we've talked about cash. I've already talked about keeping it in different locations. A lot of us, maybe not when you're actually out on the actual travels itself, but on the way to those, you may be staying overnight somewhere. Coming from New Zealand, logically, it's normal for us to pass through the likes of Hong Kong, Bangkok, Singapore, something like that. As a more experienced traveller, shall we say, I prefer to overnight in those places. It doesn't cost an awful lot more, and it's a great experience. fantastic to see these different cultures, experience the different food actually there on the ground. When I can, I'll stay longer than a night, but nonetheless, you put your valuables into the hotel safe. What a lot of us kind of forget is those hotel safes, the staff have keys. They have to. Now, it may be that the access is restricted to 1 or 2 people, but just bear it in mind when you're putting things in. Now, don't get me wrong. If you've not going to take your things with you, put it in the safe. Much better there than leaving it on the bed. Whatever you do, don't just leave things sitting out exposed. If you're walking out of your room, even for just a few minutes, take your stuff with you, or put it in the safe if you don't want to. Some people actually have security bags, with those special zips and their, slash proof material for your bags and so on. It's not the type of traveller I am. I'm not a business traveller. I'm not travelling at the higher end of things. I'm generally carrying my backpack. So it's quick, easy, practical, we're gone. So just bear that in mind if you're going through hotels. The hotel safe is only useful up to a point, okay? Hostel safety. Staying in a hostel. I've already mentioned the money bag stays with you at all times. As far as your other things are concerned, don't just leave them sitting on the bed, okay? If you've got valuables, it doesn't matter if it's well, most of us are unlikely to be carrying a full laptop, but we might be carrying some other larger, a valuable electronic device, certainly valuable cameras, valuable phones, things along those lines. Don't just leave it lying on the bed, okay? Take it with you. If you leave it lying around, it's leaving itself open for an opportunistic thief to go, thank you, I'll have that. And incidentally, don't go leaving your cash and so on in your backpack while you're in a hostel, because it's one of the first places that an opportunistic thief will look. Next up, safety on the trail. Now, in this case, I'm talking about safety in terms of animals. In terms of getting mugged and so on, as far as I'm aware, I've not heard of a single incident of people being mugged on Camino. Most of the Camino routes are very well travelled. We're talking Spain, Portugal, France. We're not talking third world countries here, and we're not talking really busy locations, with the exception of places like Santiago de Compostela and a few of the other main cities. So you're not in a position, generally speaking, where you're walking somewhere that any lowlife is going to be wandering around. I'm talking about animals. Yes, there have been a handful of cases of people reporting run-ins with dogs, basically. But apparently the bulls on some of the lesser travelled Caminos are more dangerous than the dogs. And on the grounds that there's only been 1 or 2 run-ins with those in the course of a year, I think we're pretty safe out there. So don't stress about your personal safety, other than just taking care of your valuables from the point of view of opportunistic thieves. And incidentally, those opportunistic thieves may not be coming from the local populace. You may be walking alongside one of them. So out of sight, out of mind, no temptation, there's no problem. Next up, with your phone. Hopefully you've got your phone set up so that you've actually got a password on it, so that your password automatically locks after a certain number of attempts. And I would suggest that you also, if possible, set it up so that it, what do they call that? Have it find your phone. So activate find your phone. Day to day, mine is not activated, but when I'm heading off somewhere like this, I'm going to activate my find my phone feature. If you unfortunate enough, silly enough, careless enough to leave it sitting on the restaurant table, in the taxi, you drop it on the subway, whatever, you stand a chance that you're actually going to be able to locate it, or at least help the police to locate it. So yeah, a lot of us have an awful lot of valuable information on our phones. We have our lives on our phones, some people, you know, photos, etc. I'm making this video on my phone. Not that it's my life, but still, you get the point. So that sort of side of things, be aware of that. Now, one sort of final tip. This applies more to the ladies, but it's certainly not exclusive. If you've got a bag, a man bag, a handbag, whatever it may be, and you traditionally loop it over your shoulder when you're carrying it, it's so easy for that to slip off. You sit down briefly on the wall, on a chair in the restaurant, whatever it may be, you greet somebody in the street, it slips off, drops on the ground, you don't even notice it's gone. If you've actually got it across your body, and this isn't really working very well because the strap's short, then it can't fall off. Now, there's actually another reason for this too, and the reason that I brought this up. When I was in Italy, many years ago now, I had the misfortune to see a young lady in front of me get robbed. I wasn't as unfortunate as the poor lady concerned, of course, but nonetheless. She was just walking down the street, minding her own business. She had her handbag looped over her shoulder. A couple of motorcycle thieves came along, a couple of young guys. They grabbed the bag and kept going. She tried to stop them, got jerked to the ground. I wouldn't literally say dragged along the ground, but she basically flew along the ground for a metre or two, badly grazed up. Lost all her stuff anyway, and that could not have happened if she'd had it across like this. That was a hell of a bad start to her holiday. So yeah, just learn from other people's misfortunes and do it like this without keeping it that short. I think that is, oh no, one more thing. A lot of it, I mentioned earlier that I will often have my bum bag in my day pack if I'm actually sort of out in town and sort of so forth. Excuse me. If I'm sitting down in a restaurant, if I'm stopping to, I can't think, stopping to adjust my shoes, whatever, sort of things along those lines, and I actually take it off, I put my foot through the straps. Excuse me. The main reason for that is that it stops an opportunistic thief just walking past you, picking it up and walking on without you realising. Now, key places for this are obviously crowds. Again, we're talking airports, things along those lines. The number of times I have seen a parent dealing with a child or dealing with a piece of luggage that has decided to misbehave. In this day and age, that means the wheel's fallen off. And they put their day bag or their carry-on bag down while they're dealing with that, and it's to the side of them, or even sometimes even slightly behind them as they're working on it. So easy for somebody to walk past, pick that up and walk away. And by the time you've realised they're gone, your valuables are gone, don't be that person. If you put your foot through that strap, they can't get it without you at least noticing and giving you a chance to grab it, and certainly to yell. And 19 times out of 100, that's going to scare them off. They don't want to be noticed. They want to take what they can, get out of there with no questions asked. That, I think, is me. So have safe travels. Enjoy it wherever you're off to. I hope that this video has been helpful, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Please, if you can, like, subscribe. It'd be much appreciated. Thanks.